Welcome back to the United Pubcast for your Friday night pint. A little bit of a quick one tonight, most likely. Unfortunately, Larry, after his great appearance last night, is back on the treatment table. Fingers crossed he can join us over the weekend to review the Wolves match. Obviously, a little bit over 24 hours away. Fingers crossed that is the case. And a bit of a quick one because we're going to sort of discuss the latest in regards to Ineos, QATAR, and the Glazers, of course. But when you sort of dig deep into everything, is there much news really compared to what we have discussed the other day? And even if sort of looking at that sort of overall, was that really news as well, or was that just a little bit of rumor? So we'll discuss on a little bit. If you have any thoughts or topics, throw it in the chat, and I'll sort of give my opinion as well. But in regards to breaking news around the takeover, I think we're just as in the same position as we were 24 hours ago, still very much in the dark. And that is extremely frustrating for us fans. So there's not much we can do about it. We can speculate and sort of have feelings and opinions towards everything. Ultimately, is it going to change? I'm not sure. So if anything in the live chat does pop up in and around the takeover, throw it in there. We can have a bit of a discussion. Then also look at there is football to discuss. It seems a while since Manchester United have played, let alone won. We do need to get back to winning ways against Wolves this week. So obviously do a bit of a match preview, my start 11 prediction, etc. Get yours in as well. And a rumour that did sort of frighten me a lot over the last couple of hours I have seen floating around on Twitter. Now, obviously not from a credible source, which does give me a little bit of respite, but I have seen Jordan Pickford's name being floating about. Now, no matter what your opinion is on David De Gea, if anyone wants Jordan Pickford at Manchester United, I question your support for this club and your character of people. So I'll touch on the Jordan Pickford route. And again, it's a rumour. He's not joining Manchester United, but it is floating out there. And obviously with the narrative around David De Gea at the moment and the feeling towards David De Gea, I think a lot of people wrongly, I would say rightly or wrongly, in my opinion, I know wrongly, asked John, well, hang on, Jordan Pickford might be an upgrade. Simply not the case, but I'll get into my thoughts. Tom here, good name, but also good to see you in the live chat. Jesus, not Pickford, please. I completely agree. For multiple reasons other than the football reasons, but not a good enough goalkeeper for Manchester United. No doubt about that. And Dion, good to see you, mate. Hope all is keeping well. So, as I said, in regards to Ineos and QATAR, if you do have any opinions or just sort of anything to sort of put in the chat, I'll share my 2 cents as well. But unfortunately, the one bit of news probably was in and around the share price. Now, I don't have a good understanding of the reasons why this potentially would have happened, but it does look like the United share price has dropped a few dollars. Now, in terms of the way this fluctuates, this happens seemingly every couple of weeks. Some people say this is a good thing. This means this is going to happen. Others say it's a bad thing. This means this is happening. I have no idea. But the facts of the matter that apparently the share price has dropped, and the only sort of information in and around the club's ownership over the last couple of days, which would be reflective, is obviously Sir Jim being potentially a little bit closer. So people are putting 2 and 2 together, and maybe rightly so. As I said, I don't have the understanding of that field, but saying, okay, so Jim is a little bit closer and the Glazers maybe having that 20% stake, so the share price has dropped. If that's accurate, if that is why that has happened, okay, albeit I'm not sure why or sort of what the case is moving forward. If QATAR sort of are seemingly favourites in the media in the next couple of days, does the share price rocket back up? I'm not sure. If you have any input or insight into that, do let me know. Where's the Raw? Good to see you, mate. As always, hope all is well with you, mate. And other than that, I don't really have anything else to say. I've got a lot to say, a lot of feelings towards both bids, pros and cons, and obviously all negative towards the Glazers. But in regards to news, there's not too much out there. So what I will do, I'll touch on the Wolves match now and sort of a little bit of a preview so we can talk a little bit of football. We can come back to the ownership discussion if you do fancy or anything does pop up in the chat, do throw it in there. But I would like to go through to the football and discuss that because Manchester United are a football club. Sometimes we forget that. That's the first thing, in my opinion, a new owner should do. Reinstate, it's not on here. It was changed since, but put football club back on the badge. I know people say, oh, that means nothing, that's superficial. Yeah, but I'm fickle as a football fan. I want to see it back on our badge. That's the first thing I want QATAR or Sir Jim to do. Will they? Of course not. Well, I say who knows, but I don't think they will. But we are a football club at the end of the day, so let's talk a little bit of football. The Wolves preview. This is huge. Now, I don't have the table in front of me, but without looking at the table, I know it's must win. And now I very rarely, unless it's an FA Cup final or Champions League semi-final, I very rarely say, okay, this is a must-win game. Because obviously, okay, you got next week to bounce back, especially in a league setting. This is as close to a must-win as I'm getting. I think this definitely goes into the category of must-win. So But we do have a very good home record, a surprisingly good home record. And I sort of read one or two articles over the last couple of days suggesting Wolves don't have the greatest sort of travelling record this season in terms of away from home. And Wolves aren't what they once were. Obviously, Wolves were that team a couple of years ago, obviously off the back of their promotion a few years ago, who were always pushing in and around that top six in those European places. And they were, for years, our bogey team. Every second week, we would go away to the Molineux and Ruben Neves would put it into the top corner. It's seen here, Dion puts in the chat. Is Neves still there? I avoid watching Wolves. Yeah, I hate, not Wolves. I don't hate Wolves in the context of Leeds or Liverpool or Manchester City. Yeah, but just kind of, they're this club that just sort of, they got in the way too often over the last couple of years, and they're sort of a real thorn in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side. So I don't have too much time for Wolves, but they have done well since they came back into the Premier League. Maybe struggling a little bit, maybe gone through sort of almost at the end of a cycle now. Potentially, obviously, one or two changes in manager, but they do have this Spanish guy in now who's obviously made them a little bit more, or perceivingly, the way I've just perceived them, maybe it's wrong in terms of facts, but I see Wolves now as a far sort of tougher nut to crack in terms of they used to be sort of have those flair players. Not that Adama Traore was a good player, I didn't rate him at all, but he is someone who can excite and can change a game. Ruben Neves can put it in the top corner from absolutely anywhere. Raul Jimenez in his prime, I thought was a brilliant striker. I actually wouldn't mind Jimenez before his head injury coming to Old Trafford. I thought he was a brilliant striker. So they've always had that. I think they have sort of tailed off a little bit just in regards to the natural cycle. What the future does look like for Wolves, I'm not sure. There was that old Portuguese sort of contingent for a period of time. So Wolves, how did it go against them at the start of the season? It would have been the 1-0 Marcus Rashford, obviously the game where Marcus Rashford started on the bench after being dropped for being late to a meeting, I believe. So can we do the double over Wolves? We bloody need to, because as I said, I'm not looking at the table in front of me, but it is close to must win. It's a big week of the Premier League. I have seen Leeds are playing Newcastle in the lunchtime kickoff just before. That's a huge game. Obviously, this is probably the one time of the season we do want Newcastle to win, because I think that is almost at the end of Leeds, and I would be brilliant to see them get relegated, in my opinion. Be brilliant to see them get relegated. So I'll definitely be tuned in to Newcastle Leeds. I think I'm just trying to get away from Liverpool rather than trying to catch Newcastle now. Let's hope it's Newcastle and Manchester United in the top four, and Liverpool are the ones to miss out. So I'm not so much worried about Newcastle winning. I'm more worried about Leeds losing. Not worried about Leeds losing. I'm looking forward to Leeds losing. Rob, good to see you, mate. Hope all is well down the coast and having a bit of a trip. Put your feet up for the weekend. What was that? So I'll bring up my starting 11. And I have a feeling everyone in the live chat will be pretty much, pretty much agreeing in this. And now a lot of the time, a lot of people will disagree with me, and probably rightly so. I have a feeling this starting 11 will be pretty close to the money for a lot of people in the chat. So do let me know your thoughts, and if you agree, disagree. Whatever anyone's thoughts on David De Gea is playing, and that would be the right decision. I don't think anyone in their right mind, maybe I'm wrong, would be putting Jack Butland or Tom Heaton in for this game. But I do think David De Gea does play this, and rightly so, of course. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, of course, at right back. I think that this... Obviously, I haven't seen training photos of Rafael Varane, but there are one or two rumours. Obviously, Erik ten Hag's press conference, I believe, is in a couple of hours' time. Maybe he can shed some light on Rafael Varane's fitness. I would obviously love to have him back. I haven't seen any training photos, but he must be in and sort of around the team, sort of close to a return. But I think the back four picks, or especially that centre pairing of Luke Shaw on the left and Victor Lindelof in the middle, I think picks itself. I don't expect or want to see Harry Maguire included in there. Is it the game you could probably play Harry Maguire in, just in terms of if you had to rest someone? Like, could you throw Harry Maguire in terms of, okay, he's not going to lose your game? Maybe in this game, he's probably the one game left this season. You maybe could. Again, Bournemouth, I haven't watched too much of Bournemouth. I don't know how they play away at the Vitality. Is it still called the Vitality Stadium, Bournemouth, next week? You know the stadium I'm talking about. But other than that, in terms of trying to think just in rotation, is there a possibility where Erik ten Hag throws Maguire in? I would think this is probably the game to do it, but I don't think it would be the right decision. I think Luke Shaw and Victor Lindelof play this game. And Diogo Dalot, I would play him over Terrell Malacia. I think Terrell Malacia, we could have another discussion about his season as a whole and what you think of him as a sign-in and the future under Terrell Malacia at left back. Overall, I think he has done well. As I said, we can critique him at the end of the season and the pros and cons. I think he has done very well for his first season as a Man United player. But as I said, this goes into cup final territory for me. These are must-win games almost. And I think Diogo Dalot is performing extremely well and is a little bit more sort of... And he does provide a threat. Obviously, not last time he played at left back, but recently playing at left back, he scored a goal. So he does provide that, not just a bit more solidity defensively, but he can provide a threat even from that left-hand side. So I would like to see Diogo Dalot. Gives me a little bit more of a calming influence at the back over Terrell Malacia. Midfield 3 definitely picks itself, in my opinion. Now, you could make a case Sabitzer over Christian Eriksen. I think at home, it's one of these games you can very well see Christian Eriksen getting on the ball with Casemiro and dictating play. So I would like to see Christian Eriksen. I'd be shocked if it was Sabitzer, but obviously I'm a fan of Sabitzer. We'll have maybe a discussion in a little bit in regards to has been floating around social media, a debate, would you keep him or not keep him? I'm actually surprised the amount of people who say, no, he's not good enough. I think he's more than good enough, in my opinion, to play as part for Manchester United. A huge debate around Sabitzer at the moment is you shouldn't just be signing him because he's better than Fred and McTominay. You need to go and buy world-class players, and your other world-class players are sort of relegated to the bench. I don't believe that. I believe if you have too many world-class players on the bench, they get unhappy. We've got too many sort of too high wages on the bench, and that's not a sort of recipe for a happy dressing room. I think you do need players like Sabitzer who, I wouldn't say are happy, but are content. Okay, he's going to play 25, 30 games a season. 15 of those are going to be off the bench. You do need that. You can't have Jude Bellingham for 120 million and Casemiro for 70 million and have one of them sitting on the bench for 40 games a season. That's not going to work. That's not going to be a happy dressing room. So I do think you need players, sort of squad players. That's just my opinion. But I do think Christian Eriksen, long story short, will play in this one. Bruno Fernandes, mainly with Bruno, like you could shape this midfield up however you want. You could throw Sabitzer in for Eriksen and play Bruno next to Casemiro and Sabitzer in his more preferred number 10 role. You could play Eriksen next to Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes in a number 10. My main thing with Bruno today, or should I say tomorrow, I want to see him in the middle. Now, obviously, he can float in and around. He can sort of have that license to go. Of course, I don't want to see him put out wide to accommodate, let's say, a Weghorst at number 10 or something like that. Like, obviously, Fernandes can find himself in those wide channels, but I don't want to see him playing wide right or wide left to accommodate someone else. I think Bruno Fernandes is best in the middle. That's where we need to play him. That's my personal opinion. Would it shock you if Weghorst is playing and Bruno's out wide? Unfortunately, probably not. One small critique of Erik ten Hag potentially there, but I just want to see Bruno Fernandes in the middle rather than sort of waste out wide. And the front three, in my opinion, look, Anthony Martial hasn't been good enough recently. Of course, no doubt. And look, I'll probably side on this sort of fence in regards to getting rid of him in the summer. I think his time is up. I think you do need to move him on. That needs a drastic change in regards to the transfer window, in regards to obviously need to bring 2 or 3 strikers in then if we're selling Martial and Weghorst. But in regards to the options at Erik ten Hag's disposal at the moment, and obviously the need for 3 points, if you're not playing Martial, you're playing Weghorst, well, suddenly you need a striker. So the only other situation is where you play maybe Rashford through the middle and Jadon Sancho on the left. But I believe Anthony Martial is our best striker. That's not to say the future's under Anthony Martial, but all things considered at the moment, our best chance for 3 points, if he plays well, that is with Anthony Martial through the middle, Anthony on the right, and Marcus Rashford back out on the left. There is a shout here in regards to Tom here in regards to Garnacho. I'd love to throw Garnacho in. No love for Garnacho. I definitely would be throwing Garnacho in if he was fit and if he was playing. He just hasn't played in a while. I think it's a bit of a... You just do have to be careful. Now, if he's ready to go, I'd love to see him in from the start. My opinion, Erik ten Hag will take his time, and you'd love to see him come off the bench. So that would be my one change potentially. I would sort of maybe throw Marcus Rashford through the middle and Garnacho out on the left. I just don't think that will be the case, but I would like to see that. Dion here, just on run, ideally, what you do there next season, considering he's almost guaranteed to miss half the season. That's my feeling around Rafael Varane. Of course it is. But in regards to... And I know he's a bit out injured now, so it doesn't help the cause. But he's actually not been injured too much this season. Now, again, okay, he's out injured now. Of course, that doesn't help my case. But he kind of has got over... I wouldn't say has got over the injuries in terms of his injury record is still there and clear for all to see. But I think he's been quite good in regards to his injury record, in my opinion, this season. It is something definitely you do need to consider, and I think centre-back, regardless of Rafael Varane, regardless what happens with Harry Maguire, Lindelof, is Luke Shaw a centre-back or a left-back, I think we need to invest at centre-back anyway. A lot of people are suggesting the Napoli defender, Kim Min Jae. I haven't seen Napoli play. I remember when we were linked with Osman, I said, I've got to watch Napoli play. I'll have to see this guy play. And I just never got round to them. And obviously the centre-back plays for Napoli as well. So I haven't seen him play. I've only seen him on Twitter and the YouTube compilations. Obviously, good highlights package like anyone does, like Harry Maguire, like Phil Jones. Now, obviously, I'm not saying he's at that level. Obviously, a lot of people do rate him, so he's obviously got something about him. I just haven't seen 90 minutes of football from him. My initial hunch on the YouTube compilations, I'm sure, obviously never to judge a player on that, he looks a bit, and I might be completely wrong, if you do know a little bit more about the Italian football, do let me know. just looks a little bit rigid and looks good. Again, it looks high energy and high tackles, and it's great to see. That does look like an exciting defender, which obviously is very welcomed at Old Trafford. He just looks like someone who could get maybe a little bit of a slow turning circle in regards to looks very upright in his running and sort of those small steps. I don't know how he sort of agile he is, but he obviously looks very good. And look, if he comes to Manchester United, you'd absolutely love it. It'd be fascinating in regards to the ownership situation. And we've looked at this in regards to the Glazers and sort of reasons for signing players in terms of you got signings over the past. Well, it was actually before the Glazers. I'm not sure. No, it would have been throughout the Glazers period when we signed Dongfang Zhu for the Chinese market. And then you look at the reasons behind the Shinji Kagawa deal. Did we want him because he was a great player or a great prospect, or was there sort of marketing reasons behind it? And that's not to be lazy in regards to, okay, if you sign an Asian player, that's just for the Asian market. If they're good enough, they're good enough. But in regards to this Kim defender, I just haven't seen him. But in regards to the marketing side of things, you can imagine, look how big a superstar, global superstar Park Ji-sung is. Absolutely brilliant on the field, but most importantly, brilliant on the field for Manchester United. But what he did off the field for Manchester United, it's continually to have an effect on Manchester United's fan base. And I'm just thinking, this guy, if he signed for Manchester United, he'd skyrocket into superstar status in South Korea, and that would benefit him and from a marketing point of view, would obviously benefit from Manchester United. And that's not the reason to go and sign this guy, far from it, but depending on the owners, could potentially play a part. I'm not sure. I just haven't seen him play. But a lot of people are raving about him, so he'll definitely be, if Erik ten Hag wants him, bring him in. And obviously what that does in terms of Dion's question, Rafael Varane would still be first choice for me, but if you're going to be spending, I don't know, I'm assuming 40, 50, if Richard Arnold's doing business, 60 million on this player, is he going to be on the bench behind Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane? But that's a hard one for Erik ten Hag. So I'm not sure what happens there, but we do need investment at centre-back, no doubt, regardless, because at the moment our best centre-back is our left-back, sort of filling in for the two injured players. And we don't know how Lisandro Martinez will come back from his injury. Obviously, a very straightforward injury in regards to a fracture or a break. Quite straightforward in terms of the healing process. Once it's back, he's ready to go. But some players sort of don't recover from injuries as sort of expected. So definitely a area that needs investing for me, in my opinion. With through Dongfang Zhu, that's a memory. One of the great Manchester United photos, in my opinion, a really iconic photo, was Dongfang Zhu's season when we won the league. Chelsea were champions. We won the league. They didn't get a result at Arsenal. I remember that. And they obviously handed Manchester United the title. And then the following week, we had the Guard of Honour away at Stamford Bridge. And Sir Alex just took the piss. Sir Alex just threw all the kids out there. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might have played. I think Gabriel Heinzel was captain. Thomas Kuszczak played, but there was players like Chris Eagles, Kieran Lee, Dongfang Zhu was one of the players. And you got players like John Terry, Frank Lampard. I think Claude Makélélé was there, Michael Ballack, all giving these players a Guard of Honour who were making their debut, just these young kids. And the iconic one is Dongfang Zhu, because obviously there was a lot of there's a lot of attention around him for unfortunately the wrong reasons in regards to his signing and his quality in a Manchester United shirt. But I love sort of looking back at that image, one of the iconic ones. The other one in regards to a Guard of Honour was obviously Van Persie, at the way at the Emirates in that white kit in 12-13. That was brilliant to see. Dion here, wasn't Kagawa supposed to be a package deal along with Lewandowski? I know United definitely, or Sir Alex definitely had an interest in Lewandowski. I think there was maybe potentially one or two sort of lower league clubs, not lower league clubs, but lower down the table in England, were sometimes often very close to getting the Lewandowski deal across the line, but it never really eventuated. And he obviously hit the ground running at Dortmund. But what would have happened if he came in with Lewandowski? What season would that have been? That would have been the Van Persie. That was obviously a couple of weeks before Robin Van Persie arrived at Manchester United. So that would have been interesting. Lewandowski comes in. We don't have Robin Van Persie. Does Lewandowski win us the league? You would have to say, in regards to what Robin Van Persie did, if Lewandowski was in that position, you'd have to say he'd score a lot of goals as well. And he would have become a Manchester United great or a legend. So it would have been interesting. But the history book says that was Robin Van Persie. Tom as well, Timber being linked to. Yeah, he's one as well. Look, obviously the links from last season. He was probably the most hotly linked player at the start when Erik ten Hag came in. It did look very close. Then I think from memory, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Louis van Gaal got in his ear and potentially stop that deal. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with Hurrien Timber this window. But it does look like, I think I did read one or two articles to suggest that he is pretty much not confirmed he's going to leave Ajax. But in terms of the murmurs coming out in one or two interviews, you can put two and two together and he is looking at an exit from Ajax. So if Erik ten Hag wants him, I think what we have seen in regards, especially defender, he sort of fought hard for Lisandro Martinez. Even if we had one or two questions, or the media had a lot of questions, if Erik ten Hag wants you, I'm fully backing Erik ten Hag and his opinion. There has been some critique of Hurrien Timber in terms of how he would relate. I think it was potentially, I haven't read the article, but I think Jaap Stam was potentially talking in and around his suitability of the Premier League, and Jaap Stam wasn't too sort of fond of him. That's not to say not sign him. It's Erik ten Hag's play, not Jaap Stam. But obviously, as a Manchester United sort of legend and a Dutch defender, you are going to put a little bit of weight on what he does say. So that's an interesting one. Timber as well. I haven't seen Ajax play this season. Did see a little bit under Erik ten Hag before he was announced, and Timber definitely does look a player. It looks obviously that. Remember when Lisandro Martinez came in? A lot of us were thinking, well, is he actually going to play centre back? No, he's actually going to play DM, or if not, he's actually going to be a left back, and he's centre back. So here in Timber, he's one of these ones where is he going to be the right back or centre back? I'm not sure. So in terms of what Erik ten Hag does like, obviously he does like that versatility. So I do see something in that Timber deal, whether it happens or not. Time will tell. But Tom, good to see you, mate. Hope all is well. Hard to argue if ten Hag wants him. Pretty solid record to date in the market, 100%. Look, even the signings, I still like the Terrell Malacia signing. I've got questions over his suitability in terms of being a long-term success at Manchester United, but I thought it was a good signing. He has done well. Casemiro put the money aside, put the age aside, and look, you and me could have signed Casemiro. We know how good he is. Obviously, that's not hard, but in terms of he could have gone down a different route, definitely. And the signings that we sort of didn't know too much about in regards to the overall package. Anthony, okay, we know the tricks and flicks, but what's his character going to be like? What's he going to be like defensive duties? Erik ten Hag has obviously seen a huge benefit to having Anthony in the team, and I think that has proven a crucial signing for Manchester United. Obviously, our frustrations in the final third of the pitch are clear for all to see in terms of the way he plays the game, but I think in terms of the solidity at the back, in terms of while we have a good defensive record, cut aside those isolated games where we concede 7 goals Liverpool or 6 to City, if you get rid of those games and just lose 1 or 2-0, we've actually got a very good defensive record this season. And a lot of that, in my opinion, is not down to Anthony at right wing, not one man, but my God, he does make a difference. He gets through a lot of work. So I think Anthony's signing's brilliant from Erik ten Hag. And then obviously the main one is obviously Lisandro Martinez. I think all of us, while we sit here and say Carragher was wrong about him being too short for the Premier League, yeah, he was completely wrong. But we can't hide from the fact we all had these concerns. And then not concerns saying he wouldn't be successful, but there were definitely questions. We all had those questions. He's obviously answered those with flying colours, and thank God he has. But that could have gone a different way under Erik ten Hag, especially after those first 2 games where he wasn't at fault for the goals, but we lost obviously to Brighton and got that smacking at Brentford, and I think Lisandro Martinez got the hook at halftime. Now Erik ten Hag said he could have taken all the players off, of course. But the Lisandro Martinez signing after those first 2 games could have gone south. And credit to Erik ten Hag, and most importantly, credit to Lisandro Martinez, as Tom says, the butcher of Amsterdam. I forget what he's doing on the pitch. Lisandro Martinez is he's reached cult hero status already. Obviously, he's won a trophy, which obviously does help that cause as well. But Lisandro Martinez on and off the pitch, I think, has been an absolutely brilliant signing, and it goes back to the point who was Tom Greenwell in the chat put in regards to Erik ten Hag. You have to back him in what he has done this transfer window, or the past transfer window. Somewhat he did arrive. His signings have been bang on. Look, even the Weghorst deal. The Weghorst deal is interesting because we needed a striker. Yeah, our number one striker, you can argue number one striker, Ronaldo, did leave. We needed bodies there. Now, there was simply no one available in regards to our budget and the situation we did find ourselves in terms of the possibilities to go and sign players in January. We did need someone. Weghorst was available. He filled a hole. And Weghorst did very well. Now, obviously not good enough for Manchester United moving forward, but for what he is, he came in and did very well. He was available. Our best striker in Anthony Martial wasn't available. So I think we all sit here and say, okay, Weghorst has to leave, but I think he leaves with our best wishes. He came in, did well. And I think it was, given the circumstances, I know we're extremely frustrated at the moment how it's going, but given the circumstances, I think it was an astute signing. In terms of just on a loan deal, if we signed him for 15, 20 million, I don't think it would have been great business. But I thought it was well done by Erik ten Hag in terms of getting that over the line and sort of seeing us through a tricky part of the season. He played an important role in our Carabao Cup win in terms of the semi-final. I believe he scored a goal against Forest, and obviously in the final got the assist for Marcus Rashford. So Weghorst will leave and kind of be regarded maybe as a flop, and it didn't work. He's contributed big to this season, and it looking like a sort of, you'd say, quote unquote, successful season so far. So it is one of those ones. Definitely Erik ten Hag has got his transfers back on. Back in the, we'll bring up Lewandowski. I think that might have been the one Blackburn. Blackburn always, maybe it was just Blackburn's PR team that, like Arsene Wenger, was always close to signing a player. Maybe Blackburn always sort of put their name in, we almost got this guy. The famous one obviously being Zinedine Zidane. Very close to signing Zinedine Zidane, but never quite happening. Dion here, Sancho. It's hard, very hard with Jadon Sancho, in my opinion. If anyone wants to sell him, I wouldn't disagree. Hasn't been consistently good enough for Manchester United. I do see a player there. Now, I've seen many great players come to Manchester United and not be good enough. So maybe he falls into that category potentially. Given his age and his circumstances, whatever they may be off the pitch, I'm lenient to give him one more season. I would say, okay, have one more season, and you have to improve a lot, and then we make it a cutthroat decision at the end of next season. But if Erik ten Hag wants to get out in front, and he knows more about the situation and wants to sell him, I wouldn't be standing Jadon Sancho's way. And I'm not sure what Jadon Sancho is feeling in regards to his future. He might not like it at Manchester. Some players come in and it's not a fit. Who knows? It might be a fit, it might not. I'm not sure. But I think he's got quality. He's a brilliant player. Like, in terms of technique, he's beautiful to watch sometimes. He's just lacking something, and I don't know what that is. Maybe he's lacking that United factor, that X factor, what you need. Like, he gets it. He might be lacking that. Maybe, I'm not sure. But he's lacking something. And he needs to find it quick, smart. And if Erik ten Hag doesn't think he'll have it, sell him. Yeah, 100% he is. But again, this goes back to the Glazers discussion. Okay, he's on 350 grand a week. Where does he go? Simply nowhere. So what does Manchester United do? If the decision player and club deem that he's not good enough, okay, we've made that decision. But if he's on 350 grand a week and no one's going to buy him, what happens? The not good enough stays at Manchester United. And this is a cycle, vicious cycle we're in, which isn't going to change until we get that wage structure under control and new owners with who are content, I wouldn't say content or happy, but are allowing these players to leave for lesser fees and just sort of get them off the books. Until that happens, we're going to be loaning these players out, keeping them on the books. So it's just, there's players that I thrown up the other day, which I always forget we had. Just Eric Bailly is still a Manchester United player. Alex Tellez is still a Manchester United player. Axel Tuanzebe now, I like Tuanzebe. But in terms of these players, we forget they're players at Manchester United, and that's simply because you can't sell them because what the wages they are put on when they do arrive at Old Trafford. But it's a huge catch-22 when we bring a player in. Let's throw a hypothetical name. Let's say we want Jude Bellingham. Break the bank. Go do what it takes. Okay, Qatar, come in, spend the money that it's going to take to bring Jude Bellingham in. Well, it's going to take 300k a week. That's what he's going to want. Let's say just any other player. Some players can fail. Let's say Jude Bellingham came to Old Trafford and failed. We're sitting there with Jude Bellingham on 300 grand a week and unable to get rid of him. We're all then crying and say, why is he on 300 grand a week? But that was simply needed. That was the case that was needed to bring him into the club. So it is this tricky situation, which I don't side with the Glazers, far from it. But it is modern football and it's the nature of the beast, unfortunately, for Manchester United. But it's going to be a slow, gradual process in regards to getting that under control. The first step potentially is around David De Gea. And if he is to sort of sign a contract extension, whatever that means in terms of the physical, who's between the sticks is number one. If he is to sign a contract and commit his future to Manchester United, if that is on a lower wage, not many players do that. I think Juan Mata was the last time, obviously fellow Spaniard, to take a reduced wage. Not many players, especially in the David De Gea context in regards to the highest earner at the club, take a reduced wage. So maybe that is the first step in changing the structure a little bit. Fingers crossed that is the case. But it is going to take time. That this situation is not going to be fixed overnight, even with new owners. It is going to be a slow burner. Al here hasn't Weghorst scored 0 Premier League goals. Unfortunately, I do think that's true, which is criminal. And the last question I'll throw to everyone in the live chat before I do start to wrap up. Do appreciate everyone joining and helping me along in this in terms of bouncing questions and ideas. I do truly appreciate it. I am enjoying it. But my one question to everyone in the live chat now is a hard one. And I don't think a lot of people would sort of want to admit their answer, but admit it for me, please, as honestly as you can. What would you have preferred this season? One, as a preference, but also how do you think the season would have eventuated? Would you have preferred, now to take away the baggage and Ronaldo's desire to leave, but how would this season have sort of finished better if we had Ronaldo over Weghorst, or do you think Weghorst coming in was better for Manchester United over Ronaldo? It's a hard one because you do look at the work Weghorst has come through and maybe the beneficial sort of nature of that to the team. Of course, we have been better, and it's got away sort of the off-field sort of behind-the-scenes drama that Cristiano Ronaldo brought, of course. So in that case, in terms of the happy camp, okay, we're better off on the field with Weghorst 100%. No argument from me, even as a Ronaldo fan, no argument for me. We're better off without Ronaldo and having Weghorst through there. 0 Premier League goals. Okay, we could be an unhappy camp. I'm guaranteeing you Ronaldo's maybe scoring more than 0 Premier League goals, and does that put us in a better position? Now, that's not me saying it was the right decision to get rid of Ronaldo. Of course it was. But just in regards to, you look at the facts behind Weghorst's time at Manchester United, I think Ronaldo's stats would have been better. Now, he obviously hasn't been turning up trees at Saudi Arabia, but in terms of the chances that have fallen to Weghorst this season, if they fell to Ronaldo, I think the Portuguese would have had 1 or 2 more goals to his tally. Now, would those chances have fallen to him? Maybe not. Who knows? That's obviously, football is a very hypothetical debate like that. But it's an interesting one, because the feeling towards Ronaldo at the time was, get out of my club, and rightly so, get out of my club. Okay, bring Weghorst in, wants to play for the badge. That's one thing. Of course, we want to play for the badge. We're not good enough, though. And it's an interesting one. I have a feeling Weghorst has been very good for Manchester United. I think we would have been better off this season with Ronaldo, because he would have played games. He wasn't happy because he wasn't playing. Martial was out injured for so long. Cristiano Ronaldo would have played a lot of games, and I think that would have kept him happy enough. And I think we would have been better off with Cristiano Ronaldo in the team. But saying that, it was the right decision to get rid of him. Of course, I'm not saying we should have kept him, but I think it would have ended up potentially a little bit better season. But it has been a good season regardless. It has the potential to remain a good season if these last 3 or 4 games do go in Manchester United's favour. Al here, Ronaldo is better, but I preferred Gakpo. Well, Gakpo was the signing in January, wasn't it? Obviously, that feels a lifetime ago since he did join Liverpool, wasn't it? Gakpo was the man to replace Ronaldo. Obviously, didn't eventuate. Then we did get on Weghorst. I forgot that Gakpo deal, 100%. I definitely forgot about that. Tom here saying Weghorst should be a workhorse. Closing down is phenomenal. Not a United player, but worked his balls off, no doubt. Look, no criticism towards Weghorst. He's given his all. I don't like the fact that he hasn't admitted it, but you go through his Instagram, he does follow a few Liverpool. He follows the Liverpool account and a few Liverpool pages. Unfortunately, he's a Liverpool fan. And obviously that Anfield touch obviously did piss a lot of us off, and in my opinion, rightly so. It's superficial, but I did think there was no need for that. So unfortunately, he's a Liverpool fan. But what does save him in regards to, okay, I don't hate him for it. He does work his ass off. If he was given 70% for Manchester United, I would hate him. I would want him out the door. He does give 100%. So look, he supports Liverpool. It is what it is. He gives 100% for Manchester United. I can't ask more than that. But I'm happy to see, respectfully, the back of Weghorst in the summer. My mum, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in, Mum. I think Ronaldo should have stayed. I definitely know you were on that side of the fence at the time. And look, as I said, I do think we'll potentially have a better season or score more goals, should I say, with Ronaldo over Weghorst. Where's the Raw? Ronnie, but only because he doesn't deserve to go out as a player in the Saudi League. Yeah, it's a shame how it's ending, but then you say that, which I completely agree. Is Lionel Messi going to join him? That would be crazy, because Lionel Messi now obviously at the same time he lifted the World Cup, he reached the pinnacle, but a lot of the time was all Lionel Messi would never do that. He potentially will. And look at the rumoured suggestion of £400 million a season or €400 million a season to play in Saudi. He can't say no. I'd be disappointed in Messi if he said no. Like, you can say, oh, it's not about the money. He doesn't need the money. $400 million a season to go and kick a ball in Saudi Arabia. He has to take that. Like, for his future great children, great grandchildren. Like, surely I'd be disappointed in a person not taking £400 million pounds a year for kicking a football. He has to take it. I know he can go back to Barcelona and the return of Lionel Messi. Of course, that's one thing. But I think Lionel Messi ends up in Saudi Arabia. You can't say no. You cannot say no to £400 million a season. So I think he ends up playing Cristiano Ronaldo next season. But does Ronaldo want out of Saudi Arabia? It would be amazing if Lionel Messi went to Saudi Arabia and Ronaldo came back to Europe in some capacity. I'm not sure. But Dion here, I was happy to see the back of him, mate. He became a burden. No doubt it was the right decision to get rid of him. Of course, I'm definitely not saying it wasn't. And he definitely needed to go. And I think ultimately it was good to bring Weghorst or any type of player in who gave Sir Erik ten Hag a little bit more sort of, I'd say professionalism, but a little bit more, work rate up front and sort of know what you're going to get. And there's no sort of off-field baggage, of course. But just in regards to goals win games. So you can be unhappy and still score goals. It would have been very interesting. Hypothetically, Ronaldo might have got injured and scored no goals, maybe. Who knows? Would have been very interesting. It would have been interesting if it was Cody Gakpo, because Gakpo hasn't really pulled up any trees at Anfield, but kind of a little bit of a slow burner. But if Erik ten Hag wanted him, would he perform differently? I'm not sure. very interesting. On Gakpo, he wanted to come, Eric Ten Hag wanted him. Glazers refused the transfer. Yep, tough one. And look, that is the unfortunate situation Manchester United have found themselves in the transfer window over the last, you'd have to say 2 decades, coming on 2 decades now, unfortunately. But fingers crossed that Glazer reign is coming to an end quick, smart. As I said, we started tonight's pod on Ineos and Qatar. Unfortunately, there's no real news. Hopefully in a couple of hours, or Eric Ten Hag he'll be quizzed about it, of course, in the press conference. He won't give an answer, and obviously his hands are tied in terms of what he can say. But hopefully there's a development soon. But more importantly, in about 24 hours' time, a little bit over, Manchester United do have a football game against Wolves. We might actually be back in about just sort of when team news is announced. Well, we did a stream a couple of weeks ago before the Villa match. When team news was announced, we might go live there, just have a bit of a chat. Obviously, it's a good time here on a Saturday night in regards to it's a midnight kickoff, so maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock Sydney time. We might go live for a bit of a chat, sort of watch the team news filter through and have a bit of a chin wag over all things Man United versus Wolves. And fingers crossed Larry's there for us. He might actually be putting up a solo video tomorrow, so make sure you hit that notification bell. Hopefully Larry can put his 2 cents in tomorrow morning. On your way up, please do leave a like on the video. I do truly appreciate everyone in the comments putting your 2 cents in and questions, topics, opinions, because doing this solo, it's not my huge cup of tea and I'm not great at it, but I do appreciate keeping me going there, because if I was just talking with no comments, I would quickly run out of things to say. So I do truly appreciate everyone in the live chat interacting, and it does make my job a hell of a lot easier. Just one comment here in regards to Wesroy. Just quickly, what do you think of Blacktown getting knocked back from the second division? That's another pod. Where's the Roy? Didn't know you're in Western Sydney, but I do have my thoughts in and around Blacktown. But as I said, that is a big debate. I'm very surprised compared to what some of the other clubs. The same Fraser Park is still kicking in and around that, but a lot of people overseas won't have a clue what we're talking about. So maybe in another pod in the postseason. But as I said, hopefully everyone enjoys their Friday night, enjoys their weekend, and we'll see you in about 24 hours' time, hopefully discussing Manchester United securing or going close to securing top 4. But until then, have a good one, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.